Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. The new Wasteless World Talks are here, and today we are not three, but we are four. We have a special guest, Luke McMichael. So you see, we have three Macs and me. So we have to do something with it, but it will come later. The term today is Patriot. And we start exactly with the same procedure as every time. So please, Kevin, I see you as a first on the top of the screen. Close your eyes, and if you hear the term Patriot, what came first to your mind?
Yep, Patriot is, well, there is nothing good in my mind about being a patriot. Being a patriot, it is a negative force. It's a dividing force. It's a force for no good at all. I have, despite recently watching Braveheart on TV again and feeling very Scottish, I have no good things to say about patriots at all.
Thank you for that. I will let the place to Bill. The same question. What will be the answer, Bill?
It's always been a very good word. It's good to be a patriot, and that started changing. Oh, maybe about the time of Watergate, where we weren't quite so proud of the country anymore. Maybe at the time of the Vietnam War. That's just in my experience. And now I'm reminded that Patriot is used as the name of a surface-to-air missile that while it defends us from the bad guys, I hate to see a word like Patriot used for a machine of war.
Thank you for that. The same question for you, Luke.
I've always seen Patriot as just somebody who's proud to be a member of their country and wants to defend it, and whatever that means. Now, obviously, it gets a lot of bad connotations when you're attacking other countries or killing other people to defend yourself. There's always that gray area of the best defense is a strong offense. That's where it definitely gets a little murky, particularly in the last, say, century or so, when we're starting to kind of push our local wars off into the world, particularly looking from the American point of view as the world police. So it definitely gets a bit of a derogatory term, more now than ever before, I think, because of how it extends to protecting your country, extends to enslaving other countries. And I think that's where the key thing is. So I don't think it necessarily has to be a bad term. If I were to use it well, I would say that we're all patriots on Earth. If we consider ourselves part of Mother Earth and part of the nation of Earth, and we want to protect Earth from, say, environmental catastrophe or economic catastrophe or human rights catastrophes, then we can all kind of be patriots in that way. And I think that would be a good way to use the term. But
I didn't told you probably that I was having already today, 4 hours ago, I had a similar event. It was just a LinkedIn audio generally, where the people can join me on stage, and we talk exactly about the same topic. What is interesting, I have there people from 6 continents. Not a single one see the positive behind the term. In fact, what was even interesting, even more, that one of the person spoke about the planet Earth in very similar meaning as you use it. But at the end, we came to the conclusion that the term was hijacked in such a way that it will be necessary to find a new one, probably. And when we talk about it, my proposal, because I spoke about what about, instead of patriot, what about human? Just human, Is there anything else what you connect with patriotic behavior, Kevin?
Yes, nationalism, wrapping yourself in the flag and being exploited by politicians. The problem with patriotism is that it's a very powerful force. It's easily manipulated. We are easily manipulated. We're made to feel patriotic, and then we do things that we will come to regret later. It's a it's a very powerful and very easily manipulated human trait.
This is why it's used for war, probably, or in war as the tool why to go to the war. Of course, if you protect your country, we talk about the waste in, the war industry. They sell the same weapon to the attacker for 100, but they sell it to someone who defend themselves for 500. So this is why it is the most profitable industry in the world. Do you see, Bill, in a connection of the term, any difference related to COVID, change of behavior of people, or anything in the last years or so? Or it remains the same, negative, and we really have to switch the term?
No, the term continues to evolve. In fact, if we go back far enough to the Greeks or the Latin, it has something to do with the land of my father. So I am a patriot if I promote, protect the land of my father. That's very different nowadays when politics is so rampant. Of course, America is the land of my father, but the land of my father really is a set of beliefs. It's not a place so much. So it continues to evolve, um, and I agree it has been hijacked to mean things that like Kevin said, nationalistic. That's a strong word. But yes, I see them as similar. And probably if we have this conversation in 50 years, there'll be new connotations on it.
Quite interesting, because you are in the US, but Luke is in Canada. Is in Canada the similar feeling about this?
Well, to be honest, in Canada, we don't use the term hardly at all. I mean, anytime it's used, we kind of think of Americans, being patriotic. But at the same time, Canada, we're so connected to the States that almost everything they do relates back to us. So we're almost kind of like the weird cousin or the weird kind of brother up north that kind of watches things as they go on there and kind of laughs about it and tries to kind of make the best out of whatever situation we're thrown into. But that being said, yeah, it's definitely a loaded term, and I think we try not to use it at all because it's been so loaded. I think extremely rare that you hear it in normal outside conversation because it's a loaded term, and there's so many kind of negative connotations with it. So I do think we kind of need a new term, and I do think if we are going to use it, we should start using it in the form of world patriot or saving the world patriot or some kind of new connotation to try to bring it a new image that we're trying to protect our world, not just our tribe or our country, by killing other countries or by destroying other tribes and countries. And that's definitely a challenge. So yeah.
In my language, we adopted the term, but we don't use it. We have another one. But if you say it, the people understand. Someone with hold the flag in the hands and so on. So usually, as you said, the picture of America is there frequently. So as the racket, which was mentioned by Bill. But we use another word which sounds vlastenec. Vlast means country, and vlastenec is someone who do something for the country or who feels something for the country. But even this word is not very frequently used. But we have learned in our talk that generally, if there are two words like Green Deal and carbon trading and so on, that the first one is usually used to pretend something, to pretend it's green and it's sustainable, but the reality is the second word. And generally, even if we add the earth, I don't think that it will change. So I would like to have a really one term, one word. I don't know which one. And maybe we will come, because 40 minutes is a lot of time, as we know. But if not, I think many people will think about it, because many terms has been hijacked, many terms. Why do you think it happened generally? I know that it's easy to manipulate with people. You said it, Abel, but was it the real reason why it was hijacked? Sorry. Any one of you?
I don't know if there's a specific reason. I think it just evolved over the years with the war kind of efforts, or the way the world changed after World War II specifically, where the US kind of came to the rescue in some ways, saved the world from, the Nazis and the devastation of what World War II could have been. And in some ways, the nuclear bomb as well had a huge effect on the style of warfare, because we could no longer have open world war after that. It was all just kind of pseudo wars or placeholder wars. We'd go to Vietnam or North Korea, or even now Ukraine and Gaza, where it's kind of like the world powers can't openly oppose each other at all, and haven't been able to for essentially 80 years, because it would just destroy all of us, mutually assured destruction. So that's kind of why I think the term patriot changed, is because war changed so much in the last 80 years. It's kind of now this secret thing where war happens kind of in the back doors. It happens economics. It happens, there's all these secret wars going on. So there's no real such thing as a patriot anymore. Right? All war is kind of bad now.
This is what I feel. To be honest, I haven't seen that word for a long time anywhere.
Yeah.
But as I said, in Czech language, we don't use it so frequently. But I do not remember to see it last time.
It's used a lot in like the old movies, like the Civil War, or the even the American Revolutionary War was used a ton, right? Where we were patriotic, fighting against our oppressors in England, right? So it's used a lot in historical culture. But as far as like currently, it's probably just more of a political thing, and it's just been such a loaded political word. I'm a patriot. I vote for, the party that's going to protect our country and the party that's going to protect my interests. I'm a patriot, and that's kind of where it's used more than anything, I think, now.
You see it the same, Bill, probably, as I see from your expression.
Yeah, I think here in the States we probably hear it more because the because of the tribes. Trump waves the Bible and he hugs the flag, and he uses the word patriot a lot. A lot of people. But the other thought that I had was um, part of the blame, perhaps. I like what Luke said about the atom bomb and so on. But part of the blame also goes to my fellow marketing people. We convinced the world that we convinced the country that sugar was good back in the 50s, and now we have sugar in everything. And we convinced the country, the marketing people. I still remember watching the commercials on TV with a guy dressed as a doctor with a stethoscope and a white lab coat. He comes out and he sits on the corner of the desk and he lights up a cigarette. He takes a long drag on the cigarette and he says, "It helps digestion. It's really good." And marketing people have sold so many lies through the years, and I think, and one of the ways that they do it is they wrap this bad behavior in good words. The petroleum industry is doing it now, and they use words that everybody loves, like all natural, all organic, and so on. And I think Patriot falls into that same group in the U.S. I think so, and it's and my fellow marketing people love to use it.
Kevin, what is the German word for patriot?
I don't know.
Me neither. I
No.
was just thinking whether, I don't know.
I think that the problem with the word patriot is that patriot isn't, or patriotic isn't a choice. It's not it's not an obligation, it's a duty. So when we have to do our patriotic duty, we have no choice. Then it is the state controlling us. It is society telling us that we have to do this. And no matter how unpleasant it is, we all have to fulfill our duty to society. And so patriotism is just a form of manipulation.
So Michael, I would suggest, as far as replacing the word, I think you've convinced me that we definitely need to replace the word. And I would go a little bit beyond human, and I would call it like humanism or humanist, because it's a little different than just saying human. Human's kind of too vague. But if you say humanism, you're focused on making humanity better. making it better for humans. And I think if you look at it from a non-tribal perspective and try to take, because I don't think patriotic necessarily had to be tribal. It kind of evolved that way, but I think it's more just protecting what's yours. And if we think of what's ours as the earth, then that's really where we can take it from patriotic to humanistic in the way that we're protecting the earth for humans in some way. And that, of course, includes biodiversity and everything, because we need that to survive as well.
Luke, I agree with what you're saying, and I like the word human or some derivation of it. In fact, I use that on my LinkedIn instead of the pronouns he, she, right, which I think is just another way to divide us.
Yeah.
But I don't like the word human or humanist. When I look it up in the dictionary, the definitions are all very circular, right?
Yeah.
And I think to myself, human qualities include hate and bad things. I mean, that's part of being human. I'm human, so I'm allowed to kill, or I'm allowed to, if I just wrap it in the right reasons. And that's human. So I'd love to find a word that goes beyond that.
Well, I would definitely throw protopian as well as my favorite word, because someone who's striving for progression towards utopia as a source of betterment, or some kind of betterment word. That's my favorite.
I just checked the term in German. In German, is the same.
I checked it. Yeah, it's the same.
It's the same. Just there is this der. I think der, which is something which is common in German, I think. So it's quite interesting. I didn't expect it, because I was thinking that they have something similar. Don't tell me that Hitler used this term.
No, I can't imagine. I think that
Me neither.
No. But I think that instead of finding a new word, we should abolish the word. It shouldn't exist. There should be no such thing.
But you do need something. Like, how do you refer to a person who's striving to make the world a better place? Like, what's a good word for a person who just wants to protect the world? We need a word for that. Well, no, like we need a word, because there's definitely a division between people who really don't care, or people who are just like business as usual. Whatever, the world be darned. Like, if the Armageddon comes, it comes. I'm just going to protect my own. And that's okay to some extent, obviously. And we can't necessarily bash people for just living in the now, living in the day to day. But there's definitely a huge difference between that style of person and the person who's focused on the future and focused on preserving, the world as it is, and 7 generations out. And I think we need a word for that style of person. We just don't have it. And patriot could evolve to that kind of word theoretically, as a world patriot or environmental patriot or sustainable patriot. But we've never had a good word for that. And I think we need one.
When I speak about people, I divide between thinkers and doers. I think it should be a doer. Because everybody, there are thinkers 500 and there are thinkers whatever. Everybody, they are thinkers, Thinkers are invited to politics, and so no doers.
But
Never.
There's a lot of warlords out there that are doers, though. There's a lot of evil people destroying the world that are doers. So I don't think that word captures what we're trying to capture either. It's definitely tricky, though.
It will be challenged. So let's find it out. And I don't think it must be one. The important thing is that behind the term or terms is the same aim. For us, it's to build WASTELESS world for all, which is very similar to what you do generally. So, and we do understand that it's us who must change first. It's us who must be the role models, and so on. And I think it can be even more terms, but the understanding must be the same.
So what do you call someone who's kind of joined your movement fully, like a disciple of a WASTELESS world, or some kind of
we have ambassadors, one in country, and then we have heroes, Industry 5.0 hero, because this is a second layer of ambassadorship, because I have set up that only one ambassador in a country. I cannot lead more than 198 people directly. I'm not able to, but the heroes are supporting. So, but the hero, even if you look, what is interesting when you spoke about the Patriot, I just remind myself on the latest superhero movies. They have all because it's connected to US, so they have all the time the flag and so on. But to be honest, not so frequently they use the term Patriot. at least when I do remember, they don't use it so frequently.
You know, hero is a good term, and you mentioned a good one there because a lot of people used patriot and hero interchangeably. You know, in the past, they thought of a patriot as a hero who's protecting their country. So I think hero's definitely got some merit. Whether or not it's too strong a word or not strong enough, or it's just a little too loaded, because people think of heroes as obviously superheroes. Not all heroes wear capes is the new COVID term that evolved a lot. You know, where basically the heroes were the frontline workers and people who continued to do their job and risk of dying to the disease. So I don't mind you trying to use hero as kind of a new term for anybody trying to make the world better. I'm not quite sure if we get that. What do you guys think? Is that a potentially good term to use for anybody who's trying to make a wasteless world happen and anyone who's trying to protect the world? Can we just steal that word hero? Or do we need more than that?
I love this, Bill, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in America, they describe the Second World War generation as the great generation. And I think there's something really wonderful about that. The fact that this generation made all the sacrifices, defeated Nazism, and those are real heroes, but not to call them heroes, but to call them something else, which defines them apart, is, yeah, I think it's really a wonderful expression.
I like the word also. However, it's used in so many different ways. So, for example, the parents of young children who every ounce of their energy for 20 years goes into raising that child and feeding the child and teaching and so on. And they have almost no life of their own in many cases. They are heroes, and that's used a lot. Heroes is used in many different situations, as you mentioned, Kevin. The generation of my parents. So to use that for the wasteless world, will people be confused? And the word heroes talks, I think, about right now, right? Right now, I can't have this conversation because I need to be teaching my children or my whatever, or driving them to Boy Scouts, or there's all these things that it's living in the moment just in order to survive until the next moment, and hopefully you live long enough to enjoy some time by yourself. Whereas the wasteless world is very forward focused. It's like Luke said, it's what did you call it? Protopian.
Protopian. Yeah.
It's protopian.
Protopian, yeah. Protopia is what we're striving for, and protopian.
Because you have that vision of a utopia that we're working toward.
Correct.
Is that really a word? I don't know if I've ever in my entire life heard that word before. Or did you just coin it?
I've coined the protopian, but protopia is a word came out about a decade ago. I can't remember the guy's name. It was on Wired magazine, and he came up with just a word, and it's caught on a little bit. I've basically been trying to push it because I think it's a great word. So I'm hoping it continues to catch on and it becomes our new word for utopia. Utopia is kind of in the past. It's too loaded. There's too much negativity around it. And there's too many utopias that turn into dystopias, and it's just a bad word in general. So moving past that, protopia is much better because anything positive, anything progressing towards better, it catches everything.
And the only thing that I don't like about protopian is that it sounds a lot like jargon, and jargon is invented to keep people out, right? It's an exclusion tactic. We'll just talk in initials all the time, and nobody will know what we're talking about.
But as it gets out there more, though, like every word starts somewhere, and I agreed with Michael that we definitely need new words. We need new ideas, new ways of thinking about our future world and how we're going to make a wasteless world. So you can't always just use old words and try to reinvent them. Sometimes you need brand new words for brand new concepts.
And
so I'm hoping we can continue
I love to come with new words, you know. You remember, Bill, Noject? clear
I've been using that.
Yeah, that's
go.
great. That's great. And time to time, I'm meeting people where they are using words which I introduce generally, and it's great. Even Industry 5.0 is used so frequently, but there is the issue that you have to narrow the understanding. Even if you introduce it, you have to protect it. And I am sure with this term, which should subsidize the original, that will be needed a lot of protection because the Chinese will try to eliminate it by hijacking it. So,
Yeah.
Oh, and they will, and I think we just have to accept that they will.
There's always corruption that comes in anywhere, but the key with any good word is to make it anti-fragile. So the more people try to bash it or take it away, the more people look into it and say, okay, how do we protect against that? How do we actually give it, the core of what it is? And that's part of why I like the pro word, just attaching it onto things like protagonist, or it's always kind of a good person or a good feeling or progressing in some way. So it's really hard to corrupt a word when you kind of throw pro onto the beginning of it. And I think that's definitely a good defensive, way of trying to avoid corruption. Because if it's corrupted, it's not a pro. It's a con.
Kevin, you're trying to say something.
Well, yeah, I was thinking that as the world is in the state it is in, and our future is so precarious, and we're not going to be able to have a future by doing nothing. We must do something to save our future. That I think we don't need a word because it will describe everybody. It will describe everybody's actions. It's like being a human being. If we're going to be a human being in 20 years' time, we're all going to be doing waste. We're all going to be concentrating on the planet. So I think that it doesn't need any other name than human being.
Okay. I think that's optimistic. I would love that to be the case. I think they're always going to have a significant number of human beings that just don't get into the program. Unfortunately, I'm a kind of a realist at heart. I try to be anyway. That it's great to be positive and optimistic, but we have to kind of understand there's always going to be this core, whether that's people only care about themselves or they have some mental chemistry issues or for whatever reason, that it's hard to get everybody on the bandwagon, but I do hope that we can get most of us on the bandwagon for sure.
Yeah, the reason I was thinking, I was just thinking about my wife is Russian, and there's this Russian medal where you get this medal, so you are a hero of the Soviet Union. And unlike British medals or American medals, where they were fairly rare, in Russia they were extremely common. And the argument being that everybody was a hero. And of course, they weren't looking for a war, but one came knocking at their door anyway. And so they responded to it. And so I think that, when everybody is in the same boat and everybody's doing the same thing, it's hard to reward them or give them a title which isn't just including everybody.
Yeah, I'm not terribly comfortable with having everybody doing the same thing or believing the same thing. I'm a great believer in diversity, and welcoming people who look at Wasteless World a little bit differently than how I look at Wasteless World, as long as it doesn't cross that red line.
The key divider in me has always been, is it hurting other people? Are there externalities you need to consider that are hurting the environment or hurting other people in some way? Are you murdering? Are you stealing? Are you pillaging or plundering? Something you shouldn't be. And that's kind of the divider between good and evil in my mind, is that it's hard it's always gray area. There's always gray area, which is hard, but like you got to kind of ask yourself that question and try to prevent it as much as possible.
So, Luke, you're not nearly as old as I am, but I see so many different things that on the surface are good. I would classify that as good. That really there's two sides to every coin. And for example, COVID was great. We did some things during COVID, just what we're doing right now. We had the technology to do this in the mid 90s, but we didn't do it. We didn't do remote teaching. we didn't do remote telemedicine because that's not the way we do things, right? And it took a crisis like COVID to get this out into the mainstream and to make it accessible to far more people than it was accessible to prior to COVID, right? So I see good and bad in almost everything that you mentioned. Killing, um, you could make a case for that. I
Yeah.
remember in high school the debate topic was that one human could not own another human, and I debated the opposite, that people should be allowed to own other people, and I won every debate that season because I used the Bible, and there are so many things in the Bible that support whatever argument you want to make. So I like diversity, and almost every word that you can come up with, there's an argument that can be made for the other side.
Yeah.
Generally, sorry, Luke.
Sorry, go.
Generally, it is one of the reason why we are holding every week this meeting. You know, because I just introduced the term stone, and the next week something different. Elevator. In only twice we repeated the same term, and it was intelligence, and it was at the very beginning, and it was only twice. The rest, every single week, different term, and we are very surprised at the beginning. All the time, Kevin and Bill says, "Wow, what shall we? 40 minutes. It's why." And at the end, we are at the end, and we have right now 5 minutes to the end. And we say, wow, it's over. We haven't started yet. And I think it's exactly this type of discussion. So I like diversity because diversity is nature. There is no two same things in nature. Even every leaf is different on the same tree, and every cell in the body is different. And this is what makes the evolution so strong. Because we are not repeating the same things again and again because, okay, it may fail, it may not. Okay. And I do agree with Kevin generally that we don't need the word. If we will have it, it can support. But it's not the condition of the change. The condition is us to change.
I would just say, just to respond to Bill a little bit, trying to understand, I guess, morals. Like, back to the word patriot. Is patriot a moral word? Is someone who's a patriot a moral person?
Almost.
Yeah, and I think that's worth kind of considering how those words are interconnected, because I think that's how they tried to use the word, as a patriot is a good person doing good for protecting what's theirs, right? So now, of course, that's changed. The morals kind of change over the years so much. You know, what's right is wrong. There's so much gray. There's extremely small amount of things that are actually black and white in this world. You can get into the gray area on almost anything and say, oh, but what about this? But what about this? So I think that's the challenge that we have here. And part of why it's so fun getting into these words is there's gray area in every word, and there's gray area in every definition. So I think the important thing is that each of us strive to ask those questions for ourselves. What do we consider moral? What do we consider a patriot? How can we be a better patriot or a better moral person or a better protopian? And words are important. And I think, like Kevin said, that we don't think we need a word. I would strongly disagree that I do think we need words. We need important words to kind of symbolize what we're going for, to symbolize the world we want to build, to understand what morals are in the world we want to build and how to change them and how to evolve them to make a wasteless world or a better world in whatever way. So I really love this kind of defining terms and defining the world we want, and just so we can all get a better picture in our heads as to what our actual goal is.
I think that, Kevin, mainly, and please correct me, Kevin, you mean that we do not need the substitute for the term patriot. That's what you mean, because all of us, all three of you, you are authors. You work with the language, and I think it's your sentence, Bill, who says that the future is riding on the back of a language. That's absolutely right. I love Czech language. It's very complicated. but we have many expressions which cannot be translated simply. Just the red sky. We have a special word for the red morning sky, special word for that, just for that. And everybody does understand. It's only this thing. So 2 more minutes. So Bill, Kevin, Luke, what you would like to say to the end? Less than 2 more minutes.
I would like to thank each of you. I came into this thinking only good things about Patriot, only good things, that it was a very positive word and it was a compliment. And I'm completely changed now. You have changed. Thank you for that input.
I'll say the same. Thank you, Kevin. Again, it really helps me to kind of understand and pushes my envelopes when I think of deeper terms and why these words are what they are. So it's a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me today. I really appreciate it. I hope I can join more in the future.
I hope it's not the last time. We have one more. Generally, Luke is doing a podcast as well. So maybe you see quite interesting guests which can be part of your podcast. But he has a co-moderator who is from Czech Republic, and he would like to join us as well. So maybe next week. Let's see.
Yeah, I could come probably every other week or something, and we'll see how things evolve. But I would love to continue to be a part of this.
For now, let me thank you all for joining me today. Let me wish everyone, including you, have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, be free, be human. And I think to be pro-utopian is not a bad idea at all. So let's put it together and have a great time, great day. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.